What's going on, guys? Stefan here with you, S&E's Garage. In our last video, you'll see that we replaced the factory suspension here on our IS350 with a nice set of coilovers. We got our ride height dialed in, and today we're going to be addressing the inner tire wear issue that is inherent on these vehicles from two fronts. So later on today, we have an appointment for a wheel alignment on our IS here. That is going to be a part of the reason that the inner shoulder of your front tires are wearing. Your alignment's probably just out. Get that done. But more importantly, we're going to be replacing the front lower control arm bushings on this vehicle. This is a very common issue with all of your rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive IS, GS, and probably even the LS sedans. They're all, based on basically the same platform. What happens is the rearmost lower control arm bushing, so the one mounted closer to the driver, is too soft. It's too soft for the weight of the car. And also they wear out over time, and it's so gradual that you just don't realize it. So upgrading these or replacing these is a huge way to prevent your tires from wearing out prematurely. Now, you do have, with the IS, quite a few different options here, and we're going to go over that. So with our GSF that we have, we upgraded to a FIGS polyurethane lower control arm bushing. That is my fun car. That car has damn near 500 horsepower, and that needs the stiffest bushing possible that I can put in it. So that's what I went with. With the IS350, this is my commuter. I drive this 80 miles a day. I want it to be stiffer, but I still want it to drive nice, and I don't want a ton of feedback into the wheel because I don't want to get fatigued while I'm driving it. So we're going to take the cheap way out, and we are going to be installing the bushings that we removed out of our GSF into our IS350. That is a very viable option, and a lot of people do this because it's a little bit cheaper, and the bushings just aren't as stiff as a polyurethane bushing. So these bushings have right around 33,000 miles on them. They're out of a 2016 GSF, and they are damn near brand new. So I'll leave a link to these guys in the video description below for you to order if you would like. And I'll also leave a link to some of the other options. You have RR Racing, you have FIGS Engineering. There's a couple of different options that you have to replace these lower control arm bushings. So just because we are not using those options does not mean that this video will not apply to you, because the design on these is the same no matter who you buy them from. It's just how stiff they are. So these are a fluid-filled bushing. You'll see there are no cracks here on these boots. Once we go ahead and lift this car up, I'll show you some of the things that you should look for when you're replacing your lower control arms, or your lower control arm bushings if it's needed. We're going to show you why we're doing ours. Let's go ahead and get it up in the air. So this right here is where your lower control arm bushing lives on your IS, GS, LS, and so on sedan. It's right here. And what you're going to see on ours is it's beginning to crack right here on the inboard side, or the outboard side, I should say. And that's just because this car's got almost, 170,000 miles on it. It's got 164,000 miles on it. These bushings have been bushing since then, and they're tired. And they're super easy to replace. It's literally 3 bolts and a bracket. So we need to remove these two 14s. That's going to be like a 22. That's probably going to be a 22, and then that looks like a 17, but we're going to confirm all that with you. Let's get you up on the tripod, and let's go ahead and pop these bushings out and show you just how easy it is. So what you'll see that I've started noticing here is just how the inner edge of this tire is starting to wear. And if we come over here, you'll see the same thing. And that is a dead indication. Even our outer edge here is wearing. That is a dead indication that you have some movement going on in the front end of your vehicle, and you need to start thinking about replacing these, because they're such a common weak point even when they're new, and a common failure point as they age. It doesn't make sense not to do these, especially if you want to prolong the life of your tires. My memory does serve me right. This is a 22, so we're going to go ahead and remove it. And this is going to free the joint or the bushing from the lower control arm. You're going to save that nut and that washer because they will be being reused. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove this 22 and these two 14s here. Let me just make sure you can see what I'm looking at. Yes, so these two 14s and that 22, and then we're gonna drop this bracket. Okay. You'll see we'll just go ahead and remove that whole bracket. And now we're just gonna go ahead and remove this 17 millimeter. It does have a captured nut up top, or a nut up top. So make sure if you have to use a wrench, you can use a wrench. I was able to just grab it. So what you're gonna see now that we went ahead and removed that 17 millimeter nut and bolt is this bushing is loose. So all we need to do now is snake it out. So we're gonna go ahead and remove this plastic cover here. It's held in with just a bunch of 10 millimeters. That's weird. Okay. And what that should do is give us more access in here with our pry bar to pull this out. Okay, and you're literally just gonna slide it out like that. Let's go ahead, grab the new bushing. We're gonna lube this shaft up and we'll slide it on. So now we are at a point that we can go ahead and install our new bushing. Now the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna take some silicone lubricant. I have some right here. I'll leave some in the video description below. And you're gonna wanna lube this shaft here up. So you'll see we've gone ahead and done that. Now, when you install your new bushing, you're gonna want the chamfered edge here to face in towards the control arm, and the flat edge will face out. So we're gonna go ahead, slide this over. Let's go grab our pry bar and we will get it on. Now we can just go ahead and reinstall everything basically in the reverse order. I'm just gonna go ahead, I'm gonna get our bracket, I'm gonna start all these nuts. I'm gonna leave this nut here loose, and we're gonna take our pull jack and we're gonna load the suspension up before we tighten that one, because we want to load the suspension up so we're not putting a preload on the bushing. Because if you tighten this all the way now and then lower the car, this bushing will be under a constant preload that will cause it to fail prematurely. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and tighten this down. Tighten this down. Okay, I'm not murdering them, I'm just tightening them up. That one's important. That also holds up the front subframe, so don't be afraid to get that one pretty tight. And now we're gonna go ahead and tighten this nut and bolt, 17 millimeter. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead, start our nut and washer, and then we're gonna go ahead and put a load on the suspension and tighten that down. Now we're gonna be using a pull jack to do this. If you're doing this on the ground, you can just go ahead and use a regular jack. All we are trying to do here is load the suspension up to simulate the car being on the ground. You'll see the control arm is pivoting, and that is exactly what you want, because you don't want to tighten this without having some sort of a load on this suspension. It doesn't have to be all the way. My lift is starting to, yeah, so that's going to be as much as we're going to do. And now we're just gonna go ahead and tighten this down. Okay, and now we can go ahead and unload the suspension. And it's that easy. You guys just replaced the lower control arm bushings on your Lexus. So let's, off camera, we're gonna go ahead and replace the passenger side, and we'll be back with you when we're done. All right, guys, and it's that easy. Just like that, you went ahead and replaced the lower control arm bushings on your Lexus IS, GS, LS, or any other rear-wheel drive Lexus variants that I may be missing here. They haven't changed this design at all from the second generation Lexus IS, so that's dating as far back as 2006. So this video will apply to a ton of vehicles. Now, it is very important that when you're done with this, you go ahead and get an alignment. And what I am going to request the alignment shop do when they have it up on the rack is I'm gonna tell them to crack this and this nut loose and then retighten it just to take any additional preload out of the bushing, and that is going to help extend bushing life. I recommend you do the same. But with that being said, please like, share, subscribe, stay tuned. We got more content coming up with this car, and we'll see you next time.